Like a roaring fight, grit during dreams under stadium lights, sweat and fire, hearts ignite. Evening sparks will fade, with the Ginch replay. Highlights while scores collide, it's the riot live tonight. Blades drawn, bold on the chalkboard slate.
Yes,
Rivals
yes,
clash,
yes.
it's a
You know, little
heavyweight fate.
chickadee.
Every second pounding,
It's
can't
gonna get
wait.
cold
Evening
as hell
sparks
here
will fade,
in the
with
Northeast
the
in the next
Ginch
week and a
replay.
half. Welcome to another edition of Early Inning Sports with the Ginch. I am Coach Ginch, your host Ryan Moore.
Thanks to the Ginch Quartet there. I was hoping to have Larry McReynolds on to talk all things NASCAR. Don't know if he's running late or if he got caught up doing something, but I hope everything's okay on that end. So, but welcome. Last hour, I went over everything that happened in the NFL on 4-down territory. But if you want me to reiterate everything, I can do that. Look, as far as the Bills-Broncos game goes, everyone's going to pin it on Josh, and yes, Josh had a horrible game. And he tends to have horrible games, okay? I'm not going to defend him. I'm not going to vouch for him. He had a bad game. But again, the defense sucked all year. Both defenses sucked on Saturday. McDermott gets fired. It's not just because Josh had a bad game. It's been the culmination of everything. You couldn't get past Burrow. You couldn't get past Mahomes. And then this year, you're expecting great things, and it just didn't come to fruition. And I see him in the green room. I'm going to bring him on. Let me bring him on here. There he is. I call him the People's Crew Chief, by the way. That's Larry McReynolds. Larry, I know you're busy. Thanks for taking the time to come on for a little bit.
Yeah, I apologize for being a little tardy. It's definitely been one of those days, Ryan, where I've put 50 pounds in a 10-pound bag and just prayed the bag didn't bust. So far, I've made it.
I'd be remiss if rough off season for NASCAR with the whole Greg Biffle tragedy, Denny Hamlin. You're down there in the thick of everything. We can always see it as fans. How's everybody dealing with everything?
You know, I think all in all, everybody is working hard on the healing process. You know, we certainly, a week before Christmas, the tragedy with Greg Biffle, his wife Christina, Ryder, Emma, his 2 children, the other 3 gentlemen are on that plane, and certainly our thoughts and prayers have been with all of those families and friends, especially Nicole, who is Emma's mom. That was by Greg's first marriage. And then, of course, most recently, the tragedy with the Hamlin family, with Denny's mom being injured in that fire, his dad losing his life. So our thoughts and prayers certainly continue to go out to Denny, but more than anything, a quick, speedy recovery for Mary Lou Hamlin, his mom.
Yeah, prayers throughout. So, look, I'm going to go back to November. It was a weird NASCAR season. People got on winning streaks and different things. We come to the last race, Larry, and I'm going to look. I did not think Denny should have taken any tires because he had the dominant car. I don't think anybody was going to pass him. It's so hard to pass with this new version of car that they have. What say you? If you would have been the crew chief, would you have brought him down for tires?
You know, it's easy for me to say here, what, 2.5 months later,
Yeah.
what Chris Gale should have done. Heck, it was easy to say 5 minutes after the race what Chris Gale had done. But I said it immediately the following day when Danielle Trotter and I had to do our radio show. Chris Gale was in a box.
Right.
You know, he's racing 3 other cars.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, he had the dominant car. So yeah, what Cliff Daniels did with Kyle Larson, he was playing with house money. You know, he was not going to beat Denny Hamlin by changing 4 tires.
Right.
And then you think about those drivers that stayed out. they're not trying to win a championship. They're just trying to roll the dice and win the race. Chris Gale was damned if he did and damned if he didn't. Because if he'd have stayed out
Hmm.
or he'd have just done 2 tires, people would have been saying, why in the world do you do that with that dominant of a car?
Yeah.
And it just, I felt so bad for him. It was just, Denny Hamlin, Chris Gale, as I've said a lot, they were about 90 seconds away from winning that championship. Less than 3 laps to go. Yeah, obviously, Chris, if he had it to do over, he'd try something different. Why we wouldn't? But it just, it was the most imperfect restart conditions for Denny that you could have. He got boxed in on that restart.
Yeah.
So yeah, losing the track position with the drivers that stayed out, with the drivers that did 2 tires, the restart did not work in his favor. It's why we call it racing. We don't call it winning.
Yeah. So let's fast forward to this year, Larry. What do you think about NASCAR going back to the old format with the chase?
Well, when they announced it, Ryan, I'm glad I had about 20 to 24 hours to process it, because I'm not too proud to admit I was probably one of the guys for the last 8 to 10 months that was leading the charge. Leave what we've got alone.
Right.
If you want to tweak it, fine. If you want to reduce it to 12 drivers, if you want to say even if you win a race or even if you win 5 races, you still got to be in the top 10 points, the top 15 points. I think all of those adjustments were very much needed. But I just didn't want to see us losing that game 7 moment
Hmm.
that we had at all those cutoff races. And then obviously 10 of the 12 years with this format, you went to the final race of the year, whether it was Homestead, Miami Speedway, or Phoenix, and you had to win the race to win the championship. That's
Right.
the only way you could do it. But I guess once they came out with it, the fact that we did away with playoff points, the fact that they're still rewarding consistency over the regular season by the points that they reset the top 16. I think the fact that it pretty much has eliminated anybody that wins that's 32nd in points,
Hmm.
and it still rewards winning because of how much they increased the points for winning. Honestly, I felt like we reached a good compromise, and I hope, myself included, we just give it a chance, because I think it has some strong potential.
The other thing they obviously did away with was the win and you're in scenario. What do you think about that particular adjustment?
I think either that had to go away, or as I said a while ago, if you're win and in, you had to be so high in the points. Because
Hmm.
I think there's 2 things that led people to not liking that elimination format. I think the fact of the season that Joey Logano had in 2024, where he didn't perform, he just performed when he needed to perform, which
Hmm.
is nobody's fault. Don't blame the player, blame the rules. But I think the other thing was the fact of drivers like Harrison, and this is no reflection on Harrison Burton or Austin Dillon or anybody, people that was outside the top 20 or 25 in points was winning a race and knocking people out of the playoffs that was sitting up there really high in the points. So I think if they didn't make a change with where you were in points, or you had to win more than one race, I think this was the only thing they could do. And I think, quite honestly, I've not heard anything negative about it, Ryan.
Let me ask you a question, Larry, because I think I asked you this before. Was there ever any discussion about going to the old point system way before the chase? Before they came up with the chase?
I think nothing was off the table.
Hmm.
I think a 36 points race season like we had 2003 and before was talked about. I think leaving what we had alone, maybe with some tweaks, as I mentioned, was on the table. I think what we ended up coming up with, the 10 race chase, obviously was on the table. And then I think the one that got really close, Ryan, was a 10 race elimination, but basically 3 races, and 4 races. I think it was all on the table. But I think the fact that if you go back to what we had prior to 2004, not to take anything away from the drivers that won those championships, but we had drivers that were winning championships with maybe only 1 or 2 wins. And
Mhm.
that's still possible in this new format, but it's not probable. And I think the fact of drivers sewing up the championship, 1 race to go, 2 races to go. Heck, I think when Kenseth won it in '03, I think he sewed it up with 2 races to go. But realistically, if you look at the numbers, I think we all knew with about 4 or 5 races to go, he was going to win the championship. There was no drama there. There was no excitement.
Right. Well, I think I go back to 1999. I think Jared only won one race that year. I think he finished in the top 5 or 10, 30 out of 36 races, from what I remember. And that's when people really started to say they need to do something different.
Well, that era, all the way up through 2003, rewarded one thing and one thing only: consistency.
Hmm.
If you look at what we've had since 2014, it still kind of rewarded consistency, but it rewarded winning. It
Right.
rewarded winning. You win, you're in the playoffs. You win in any round, you advance. You more than likely win the last race of the year, you're the champions. To my point earlier, I felt like they took old and new, mixed it together, and I think we found a good compromise.
So we're heading into Daytona here. Obviously a new season. What are some of the rules changes that are coming to NASCAR this year?
We don't have a lot of rule changes. I mean, they've tweaked on a number of things as they normally always do. I think the two big ticket items, Ryan, is, well, one, it's not really a rule change, but Chevrolet has a new body, the
Hmm.
Camaro ZL1. And honestly, whenever a manufacturer comes out with a new body, we know they didn't make a body that's going to be worse, but normally they go through some growing pains. It can be a little bit of a balance change, and we really won't know about it. Daytona, Atlanta Echo Park Speedway, the road course at Coda. We're going to have to get into that West Coast swing, Vegas and Phoenix, get to Darlington, get some of the intermediates. And just like the teams, then we'll have a measuring stick where they're at. That's really not a rule change, but that's a big change for the Chevrolet teams to have this new body to work with. The biggest rule change is what they've done with horsepower.
Hmm.
Drivers have been asking for more horsepower for a long time now. And we we run 510 horsepower with a tapered spacer, not a restrictor plate, but a tapered spacer at the 3-speed super speedways: Daytona, Talladega, and Atlanta, Echo Park Speedway. Everywhere else over the last few years with the Gen 7 car, we've been running 670 horsepower. What they're going to do for 2026, it all tracks under a mile and a half. All the ovals under a mile and a half, which is basically Darlington and smaller,
Hmm.
plus all the road courses. They're increasing it to 750 horsepower, changing the tapered spacer, roughly 80 more horsepower. The other thing they're going to do, which we've been doing this at a lot of the short tracks anyhow, but to go in sync with that 750 horsepower, we're going with the low downforce Aero short track package. It's about 30% less downforce. It's an inch shorter rear spoiler, simple rear diffuser with less strakes, a little bit more of a simple front splitter. It's just, again, it's about 30% less downforce than the other package that we race at the intermediates and bigger track. And I think everybody's pretty excited about this. Would they maybe have liked to have went more than 750? I'm sure they would have liked to have went 800. But the engine builders said, if you go more than 750, it's going to take us out of the blueprint of the engine we've got. It's going to cost us a lot of money. Just
Hmm.
going from 670 to 750, that's not a big adjustment on how we structure the blueprint of the engine. But if you start going way beyond that, so again, I think it's a great start, and down the road we may end up going more.
I'm interested to see what this year's Daytona will hold. Look, we all expect a big one. There's no way around it. A lot of guys running single file, until like the last 10 laps where guys start to make moves. Really, from a crew chief standpoint at a super speedway, when you see guys drafting and you see guys making bold moves, What are your thoughts? What is going through the crew chief's head while they're out there on the track? Because it's out of your control.
Helpless feeling. It's completely out of your control. And every time that I was at a Daytona or Talladega, which, 17 or 18 years, 4 races a year, after you made that final pit stop, you knew there was nothing else you could do. It was all on your driver and it was all on your spotter. But I think one reason these guys are being a lot more aggressive now early in the race, I think 2017 was a game changer because we went to stage racing and they started awarding those stage points. If you go back prior to 2017, Ryan, yeah, at Daytona and Talladega, these guys would just get single file, run around the top of the racetrack and just log laps. Why? There was no incentive. There was a risk. But now with paying those points basically at a third of the race, 2/3 of the race, they're pretty much 3 and 4 wide, 7 rows deep from green flag to checkered flag because you know the importance of those stage points. And Joey Logano put it best. He said, I am not going to ride around at the back at Daytona and Talladega because if I ride around at the back, I'm not going to score any stage points. And then when I go to make my move at the end, if I get caught up in a big one, I'll leave there with nothing. At
Right.
least if I've scored stage points, I've got that little bit that I'm hauling out of there, aside from a torn up race car.
Your thoughts to Ram coming back or coming to the Truck Series?
Well, I think it's great anytime a new OEM comes to the series, regardless if it's the Craftsman Truck Series, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, or the Cup Series. I think we know probably their long-term plan is to get back to the Cup Series. But in the Truck Series is the right place to do it. They're doing it the hard way. They're doing it with one organization. They're doing 5 teams. And Colleague Racing, that's a great organization, but they never have raced in the Truck Series. So their mountain is pretty vertical. But the good thing about it, we know most of the chassis are all the same for all the different trucks, regardless of the manufacturer. The Truck Series, they didn't have to develop an engine. The Truck Series runs that Ilmore spec engine. Everybody has the same engine. So really, all they had to do, I say all, it was a pretty major undertaking, is develop that round body. I like their driver lineup. Daniel Dye, Justin Haley, Butterbean Queen, and they've got the all-star truck. Obviously, Tony Stewart's going to race at the Daytona. But this is a pretty tall order for Colleague Racing. I'm really anxious. Next week, there's a 2-day test at Rockingham for the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series and the Craftsman Truck Series. I'm sure everybody is waiting with bated breath to see how those trucks run down there at that test next week.
I was just going to ask you about what are your thoughts about Stewart in February coming back? Is it just a one race deal?
Yeah, I think that truck, it's a full-time truck, but I think you're going to see a different driver in it every week, which is going to be an interesting dynamic. But Tony has no ties to anybody other than he does have a tie to Mopar through his drag racing efforts. And we know Tony, it's been a long time since he's been in anything in NASCAR. It's been a long time, well over 10 years since he raced a truck. But Tony Stewart, nobody can adjust and adapt quicker. But the question is, where are those trucks going to be when we get down there to Daytona? Are they going to have speed? Are they going to be fast?
A couple more things, and I'll let you get out of here. Going into the 2026 season, what are you going to be looking for throughout the year?
Boy, a long list of things. One, has this new Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 body going to be? We know, as I said earlier, they didn't develop a body that's worse, but I'd be willing to bet if history repeats, they're going to go through some growing pains. Where is Ford? Where is Team Penske? For the first time in the Gen 7 era, not only did they not win the championship, they did not put a driver in the championship four. Ford only won 7 races last year. Ryan Blaney kind of carried the banner all year long. He was the top running Ford in many race weekends. He won 4 of those 7 races. And the other 3 drivers that won, Josh Berry, Austin Cindric, and 3-time champion Joey Logano, they only won 1 race apiece. What are they going to do to be better? I think we're all anxiously awaiting to see if Kyle Busch can get back to victory lane. The winningest active driver there is with 63 wins. but the last time he went to Victory Lane was June of 2023 at St. Louis. They've given him a new crew chief. Jim Pullman has come over from Junior Motorsports, won the championships a couple of years ago with Justin Allgaier. So where is Richard Childress Racing, and can Kyle Busch finally get back to Victory Lane? Kyle has only won 4 races in the Gen 7 car.
Yeah.
He won the Bristol Dirt races last year with Joe Gibbs, got those 3 wins early in 23 with RCR. So where is he? And then 2311 in front row. Now that the lawsuit is over with, said and done, you know, I know they would always promote the lawsuit does not affect our performance, but they're human beings.
Yeah.
The unknown of their future, it had to. And 2311 only got that 1 win last year. Who would have ever thought Tyler Reddick would have went winless? He was in the championship 4 in 2024. Now, the 1 win was a big win, Bubba Wallace, and that was at the Brickyard. So, yeah, that's probably some of the things that I'm watching closely. We had about the least amount of driver movement that we've had in the Cup Series in a long time.
Yeah.
You know, Justin Haley moved to one of those Ram trucks. Daniel Suarez moved into that 7 car at Spire to replace him. Connor Zilic moved up to the Cup Series. He'll drive what now will be the 88 for Trackhouse. So very little movement. That's not going to be the case, I think, for 2027. It's a shorter list of drivers that are signed through 27 than drivers that are not signed through 27. And I mentioned Connor Zilic. Obviously, what he accomplished in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series last year was phenomenal. But where's Trackhouse Racing? If you take Shane Van Gisbergen's road course wins away, other than Ross Chastain's, and it was a big win, the Coke 600 at Charlotte May, the fruit they produced on ovals was not a lot. So where is Trackhouse? I think Connor Zilic at 19 years old, he's more than ready. But is Trackhouse, have they found some speed that they've been missing over the last year or so?
Final thing before I let you get out of here. Who wins tonight? Indiana or Miami?
Boy, I tell you, this has the makings, I think, of being the most competitive national championship game that we maybe have ever seen. My heart wants to see Indiana win. What a story that is. The coach, Mendoza, I mean, what a class act guy, the Heisman Trophy winner. And to seal the deal and go completely undefeated. And I think they're going to be tough. They just don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
But I go back to what I heard Nick Saban say on College Game Day before the playoffs were even set. He said the competition does not want to see the Miami Hurricanes in these playoffs. They will be the most dangerous team there is, and they've kind of proven that. I didn't answer your question because I have no idea. I think it's going to be one of the – I hope, but I think it's going to be one of the best games we've had in a long time for a national championship.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring up your Alabama team because they took a licking.
You know, they won 10 ball games, Ryan. They won some big games. And, you know, after that tail whipping by Georgia in the SEC championship, I wasn't sure we even deserved to be in the playoffs. And then they got selected, and they go to Norman, Oklahoma, and beat the Sooners. I went, look at here. I actually went into the Indiana game with more confidence than the Oklahoma game.
Mm-hmm.
About 2.5 minutes into that game, I lost all my confidence.
Yeah, it was brutal. I'm a college football fan through and through. I just want to see good games, and that was not one of them. So
this is the 2 best quarterbacks in the country.
Yeah,
Mendoza and Carson Beck. I'm telling you, they are good.
Larry, thanks so much for coming on. Enjoy the Daytona 500 as you always do. I'll be picking your brain again in a couple of months whenever you're available.
You got it. And we'll know who's going to win that race soon because, Ryan, you know the deal. It's only 27 days into the 2026 Daytona 500.
That's right. And I can't wait. Daytona and Talladega are 4 races that I will – both Daytona races, both Talladega races. Everything takes a back seat on those Sundays. So
you better believe it, bud.
All right, buddy.
All right. Take care.
All right. Have a good one. Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Larry McReynolds. Again, I call him the People's Crew Chief because that's what he is. He is the people's crew chief. But the Daytona, we are 27 days away from the Daytona 500. And when football's over, then I start watching hockey more and more. I start following NASCAR more and more, and obviously I start following golf leading up to the Masters. Let's see. Let me go to the NBA. Let's go to the standings as I always do every Monday. In the Eastern Conference, Detroit still on top. Boston is second, 4.5 games back. New York is third, 6 back. Toronto's fourth, 7 back. Philadelphia, Orlando, and Cleveland, all 8 back. Miami is 8th, they're 9 back. Chicago is 9th, 11 back. And Atlanta, right now in 10th, 12.5 back. Milwaukee, Charlotte, Brooklyn, Washington, Indiana. Out there in the Western Conference, OKC still leads. San Antonio second, they're 6 back. Denver's third, 6.5 back. Minnesota's fourth, they're 8.5 back. Houston's fifth, they are 9 back. The Lakers are 6, 9.5 back. The Phoenix Suns are 7th, 10 back. Golden State's 8th, 11.5 back. Portland 9th, 14 back. The Clippers are 10th, 16 back. Memphis, Dallas, Utah, Sacramento, New Orleans. Martin Luther King Day. NBA games today. Earlier, the Bucks beat the Hawks 112-110. Right now, the Spurs are up on the Jazz 68-59. Mavericks hammering the Knicks 75-47. That's at the half. Earlier today, the Thunder beat the Cavs 136-104. Clippers beat the Wizards 110-106. Later on, Celtics at the Pistons. Pacers at the 76ers. Suns at the Nets. Heat at the Warriors. You can tell I'm still battling the sniffles. Been about 2 weeks since I got sick. 3 weeks. And it's still lingering. Let's go to the NHL, shall we? Let's go to the standings. Eastern Conference, in the Atlantic Division, Tampa Bay and Detroit are now tied with 64 points apiece. Montreal's third, 3 back with 61 points. Boston is fourth, 58 points back. 6 back. Buffalo's fifth, 57 points. They're 7 back. Toronto, 56 points. They're 8 back. Florida's 7th, 53 points, 11 back. And Ottawa is in last, 51 points. They're 13 back. In the Metropolitan, Carolina Panthers, a little bit of separation right now. They're in first. The Islanders are second, 57 points. They're 9 back. Penguins, 55 points in third. They are 9 back. Washington's fourth, 54 points. They are 12 back. Philadelphia sitting fifth, 52 points. They're 14 back. Columbus, 6th, 51 points, 15 back. The Devils, 7th, 50 points, 16 back. They've really tailed off. And the Rangers are in last, 48 points. They are 18 back. Out there in the Western Conference, Colorado in the Central Division, 74 points. Dallas second, along with Minnesota, 63 points. They're both 11 back. Utah's fourth, 54 points, 20 back. Nashville is fifth, 50 points, 24 back. St. Louis, 46 points in sixth, 28 back. My Blackhawks are shit in the bed again. They are 45 points in seventh. They are 29 back. And the Winnipeg Jets in last, 44 points. They are 30 back. Out there in the Pacific, Vegas now on top with 60 points. Edmonton second with 58 points, 2 back. Seattle, San Jose, Anaheim, and the Kings all tied for third with 51 points apiece, 9 back. Calgary is 7th, 46 points, 14 back, and Vancouver last, 37 points. Rough year for them. On the slate today, right now, actually the Hurricanes beat the Sabres earlier today, 2-1. In the first, Sharks, Panthers scoreless. In the second, Penguins and the Kraken are tied. Right now in the third, Avalanche up at the Capitals 3-2. Later on, Wild at the Maple Leafs, Jets at the Blackhawks, Devils at the Flames, Flyers at the Golden Knights, Islanders at the Canucks, and the Rangers at the Ducks. English Premier League scores from this past weekend. Nottingham Forest and Arsenal, 0-0 draw. Man United beat Man City 2-0. Chelsea over Brentford 2-0. Leeds over Fulham 1-0. Liverpool, Burnley 1-1 apiece. Sunderland beat Crystal Palace 2-1. West Ham beat Spurs 2-1. On Sunday, Wolves and Newcastle 0-0 draw. Everton over Villa 1-0. And today, Brighton and Bournemouth 1-1 apiece. We go to the standings, the table. If the season ended today, Arsenal, Man City, Aston Villa, and Liverpool would be in Champions League. And if the season ended today, West Ham, Burnley, and Wolves would be relegated. The PGA Tour out there at the Waialae Country Club, Honolulu. Mr. Goddard finished 16 under. He wins the tournament, 1.6 mil in earnings. Men's NCAA basketball. Let's go to the rankings. I'll use the AP poll. Miami, Ohio is 25th. St. Louis, 24th. Louisville's 23rd. North Carolina's 22nd. UGA, 21st. Arkansas is 20th. Kansas is 19th. Clemson is 18th. Let me try and straighten this out a little bit. There we go. Alabama 17th. Florida 16th. Vanderbilt is 15th. They've lost 2 in a row. Virginia's 14th, BYU's 13th, Texas Tech 12th, Illinois 11th, Michigan State 10th, Iowa State 9th, Gonzaga is 8th, Nebraska 7th, Houston 6th, Duke is 5th, Purdue 4th, Michigan 3rd, UConn is 2nd, and Arizona, the new number 1, unanimously 18-0. Top 25 action today. As I scroll through here, there is none. Give the women some love. The rankings, AP poll. Washington's 25th, Nebraska's 24th. Alabama's 23rd, West Virginia's 22nd, Duke is 21st. Princeton's 20th, Texas Tech is 19th, Ole Miss is 18th, Tennessee is 17th, Oklahoma is 16th, Maryland 15th, Baylor 14th, Michigan State 13th, Ohio State is 12th, Kentucky is 11th, Iowa 10th, TCU 9th, Louisville's 8th, Michigan 7th, LSU is 6th. The Vandy women still undefeated, they are 5th, Texas is 4th, UCLA is 3rd, South Carolina is 2nd, and UConn, your unanimous number 1. NCAA Women Top 25 today. Earlier, number 12, Ohio State beat number 9, TCU, 71-69. Final in overtime, the Princetons beat the Harvards, 82-79. Number 5, Vandy beat number 7, Michigan, 72-69. And right now, number 1, UConn over Notre Dame, 64-39. I thought maybe something like would have popped up here, like news-wise. It would be newsworthy, but I'm not seeing anything. So, with all that being said, I want to thank Larry McReynolds for coming on. It's always a hoot when he comes on. Just a plethora of knowledge when it comes to NASCAR. Again, thanks for him coming on. Again, a light day, sports-wise. College football national championship. Last week, I think I picked, like everybody's picking Miami. all the pressure's on Indiana. Miami's supposedly playing with house money. Again, you know, you heard Larry say that Nick Saban said that Miami was going to be a dangerous team. This is all food for the fodder as far as Indiana goes. Indiana hasn't faced a team Miami. Miami hasn't faced a team like Indiana. I think this is going to be a defensive struggle, much like the Big Ten championship game was, much like some of Miami's games this year. I just think when it's all said and done, Indiana 24, Miami 17. So, with all that being said, practice compassion, practice empathy, have passion for what you do. Tell somebody you love them. You might not get a second opportunity. Hug somebody every once in a while. You might make their day. And for the love of God, if you see somebody struggling and you know somebody might need help, inquire, ask questions. You might not just be saving a life, you might be saving a multitude of lives. Happy Martin Luther King Day or night as the evening falls upon us. Check on your neighbors, check on your pets. It's going to be cold as hell out here in the Northeast, as is many places right now. With all that said, there's only one thing left for me to do, and that's for Dandy Don to take me out.
Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end. Call it a night, the party's over. And tomorrow and next year starts the same old thing again.